Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hey folks, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Reality's Edge, the Talking Buddy Show, episode 7. And we're here with my good friend, Comrade Budinsky, who's going to share with us all of his secret information he's been gathering about the aliens.
Yes, I have many secrets that I have been keeping because I have secret documents. Now let me see your papers.
Well, they're made of metamaterials. In this reality, they're invisible.
Oh, nice.
They're cloak. It's just to disappear from any government surveillance.
You know what I learned the other day that I didn't know is that metamaterials can also be fashioned to create like the most amazing magnifying glass ever. I was reading this document and it was about a new study done that said metamaterials can be created in a way that creates like the most amazing surveillance kind of equipment ever. And I thought that was interesting. So I guess in the future we'll have even better surveillance equipment because of the magical mini dynamic powers of metamaterial.
And we'll all have our magical cloaking clothing.
Yes.
Which will make us appear either nude or invisible, depending on the setting and depending on your location where it's appropriate. Right?
And
so you hit the nude beach, you switch, and your clothing is invisible, and go through, your facility, you want to be invisible. Just like our friends the aliens.
Yes. And just like our friends the aliens, I think they can have a tiny bit of uranium in their clothing that can act as a power source because they're so efficient with that, whatever you call it, insulator material, that they're able to create a terahertz vibration in their own metamaterial to create basically anti-gravity clothing. So you don't have to go upstairs anymore. You can elevate, you can float upstairs because now your clothing is truly anti-gravity and powered by a tiny little power source.
Are we talking flying humanoids here?
We're talking flying humanoids, Doc.
I've always wanted to see some of those up here in North America. I don't know why Mexico always gets the flying humanoids and some of those Latin countries, and we don't get them up here. We want to see, hey, if you're a flying humanoid, we'd love to see a flying one. Over. By the way, I come over to Pearl Street. I am here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. Used to be the fictional home of Morgan Mindy. We have to pay our tributes to the Robin Williams, who was here to film some of the episodes as we were saying.
Doc, I'm having a lot of breakup on the line for some reason. I'm hearing a lot of noise. You're breaking up in and out a lot now, too. For some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it, okay, maybe maybe I need to speak over the background noise because I'm in a cafe. Do you think it's cafe noise?
Yeah, I think that's it. And also you're cutting in and out a little bit with a little jittery movement. Am I doing any jittery movement or am I clear?
No, yours is fine. I can turn on my own Wi-Fi, which is faster than their Wi-Fi, if that would help.
I think it might. Your actually image is a little better now too.
Okay. So. I could use my own hotspot. Do you think you should do that?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
No stress. I will keep the gang entertained for a moment. Gang, Doc and I have been talking about this Reality's Edge show and bringing to you guys really interesting content on the edge of what we understand, on the edge of understanding, but from a place of science and practicality and logic and not conspiracy. So that's what we're enjoying doing right now. So Doc's back. Phew! I didn't have to carry the show very long.
Wait a minute, we're just booting up. It might switch out a second, so let's see if I can switch Wi-Fi module.
Nice.
The module nodules, and we will see if it allows us to, because this would be a faster signal than when you're in a shared hotspot area like this, it's shared among 100 computers.
And the more.
Okay, we got a 4G signal here. Boy, this is so much easier than I remember that.
I'm not surprised that
out in the woods.
I'm not surprised that you have a more powerful signal yourself than the building does.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to switch over. Hold on, let's see if it...
I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. He's frozen for just a moment, folks. Don't worry. It's just a pause in the space-time. There he is. He's back.
Back from the space-time continuum.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, I think it's better.
So,
how does it feel to you?
So how is that? Is that a little stronger? I mean, it's a good, strong 4G signal that should be sufficient
Looks
for
good.
our video processing needs.
Great.
So anyway,
great.
So, buddy, we have another fascinating topic to talk about today. Where we're going to start to get to the heart of what the show's about. Yeah, because what we're really doing here, we want to talk about what it's like to live around extraterrestrials. I know everyone's fascinated by this, but they don't all look like Mormons. They don't like Mormons because we actually don't know what they're going to look like or show up as, and even if they're at our frequency. And I have a lot of ideas about this, but I know Buddy does too. We were talking earlier today. Well, Buddy had these two very interesting videos about fractal distribution of UFOs and UAPs and USOs, and something which must be very alarming to our military, which is that they have more craft inside the more craft inside the craft. It's just, let's just call it more craft.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, well, there we have it. Yes. Yeah, so, Buddy, explain to your audience.
The premise is pretty simple. Is that the larger craft? Oops, I lost my microphone. Hold on a second. Essentially, the larger mothership would obviously have smaller craft, logically. And that smaller craft would have smaller craft still. And those craft would have smaller craft in it. And essentially, if you do a little bit of math, starting with, let's say, a 375-foot mothership, and let's say you divide it up in a way, just for fun's sake, by 1/8, you can give it a certain symmetry that fits into the golden ratio, all sorts of different things. I'm not a full mathematician, but I created just a little bit of math here to break up what a 375-foot ship could have inside. So let's say each ship has only 2 ships in it, okay? Each ship only has 2 drones in it, that's all. Then if you have a 375-foot craft that has 2 crafts, there's 2 46-foot crafts, and each one of those 46-foot craft each have a 5 and 0.75-foot craft, and each one of those has a 8-inch craft conceivably, and each one of those could have an inch craft. And then it dawned on me, why not nano-sized craft? We have craft that are tiny right now that are the size of a mosquito. We have little drones that big. Why wouldn't a more advanced civilization have even smaller ones, right down to the limit of really constructability? And so essentially a 375-foot craft could have up to like 126 different types of craft. And as you see, as you go down, the numbers get nutty. And then you'd wonder what would be the value of a craft like that. What purpose could they serve, a nanocraft? They could serve a wide variety of uses. I mean, from construction, acquisition, research, securities, communications. There's many, many different types of uses. And it could explain a lot of interesting phenomena that we were baffled about in the past.
Wow. So we're talking about Planck scale UFOs. You know, the Planck scale is the smallest bit of measurement. I believe it's the width of an atom, a hydrogen atom. Is that it? Width of a hydrogen atom or something like that? The nucleus of an atom. It's a very small scale, and at Planck length you have Planck time, which is the amount of time it takes light to go across an atom, right? The width of an atom, which you can imagine is very, very tiny. Yes. So when we get to smaller and smaller scales, we would be actually getting to the limits of time itself.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that consequence. The time would be different as you get smaller. Yeah.
Right. So if you have civilizations that I've been told are 1,000 years ahead of our, or 1,000,000 years, depending on which witness I've talked to, handled these materials, and as you know, they're out there. They're just not talking yet. But believe me, they're there. Those witnesses are there with these materials. And Buddy was joking about it before, but some of them do contain a bit of uranium, just the tiniest amount to power the whole thing because it's topological insulator. But anyway, any civilization that's 1,000 years, 2,000,000 years ahead of ours, would probably be operating at scales that we don't quite conceive of. So in addition, wait, let's go back a second before I get into this. This is a little too complex. I was reading that David Sex Fravor.
Yeah.
That's his full name, his code with his code sign. Now it's been released to the public. His code sign is Sex.
It is.
Yeah. That's what they call it. They're out of the word. Hey, what do you see off to your right at 2 o'clock? Anyway, David Fravor did say that he had information. Did you see this, Buddy? That they were releasing these drones from the Tic Tacs. Did you come across that?
What?
Yeah,
I didn't
that was
hear
the
about
comment
that.
on one of our YouTube pages. Somebody said in an interview that I'm just assuming the person was reporting what he heard. I don't see any reason to make this up. He said in one of the interviews, Fravor said that these Tic Tacs were releasing drones.
Wow. Well,
I will have to find it. Yeah, go ahead.
What I heard and what I saw in some documents was that they know that the Tic Tacs were rendezvousing with saucers in the water, and that they were watching this for over a week in that area. They were watching the fleets come in for over weeks, and that matches the fleets of stuff on the East Coast for the Go Fast incident. They're finding fleets now. In the past, where it used to be just one or two, they'll find the one or two on the fringes of the fleets, and the fleets are, what are they doing? What are they doing, Doc? What are these fleets doing?
You're starting to scare me, buddy.
And Doc, if
what
these
are
fleets, if these fleets have microcraft in them, how many craft? And here's another point about the theory that's important to consider, and it's an important consideration. The closer you get to Earth, the more craft you would have, okay, because of this fractal structure. But also, the closer you get to the surface of the Earth, the greater the need for constant invisibility. So the closer you get to the surface of the Earth, these craft are going to have to be invisible, the majority of the time because of what they're doing, their mission. So
invisible, yes. This is the big mystery. Is like the Fermi paradox. Like, where are they? This is allegedly what Fermi said in the hallway, having a conversation with the grad student. They're just going off the top of their head, over at the University of Chicago. And he said, where are they? And it became the Fermi paradox. One of his students said that's just how he talked. He would just always say things off the top of his head. It wasn't like a grand question. He said, where are they? So now it's if it's really true, where are they? How come we don't see them all the time? So here's the thing. I think that they may be using a different time scale, fractal time.
Oh,
so
wow.
Let me just give you an example. Let's say you're looking at a screen right watching our beautiful design tree, Buddy and myself, and it's refreshing 60 times a second. That's a certain frequency, right? 60 hertz. Now, you can see that because it's above the threshold that your eye needs to see to observe something. But let's say in that 60 hertz time frame per second, something only blinks in 20 times or 10 times or once every 10 seconds. I'm talking one frame that we now see at 60 hertz a second. It could actually be here and you wouldn't perceive it because it's below the limit of your consciousness, which remote viewers are.
Oh my gosh!
It's fractal space, and I would imagine an advanced civilization using fractal time.
Wow. So what if a civilization 1,000 years than us, more advanced, would have a computational ability so fast that to move at our pace would be boring. They could probably move at a pace so quickly around us, mastering the laws of physics, that we wouldn't even physically, because they move between the frames of that we can see. Wow, Doc, you just blew my mind on that one. They don't even need metamaterial to be invisible if they move that quickly. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
That would be the ultimate cloaking device.
Well,
Temporal shift and not showing up in all our frames, which means you would have a feeling that something's there, right? But you would never see it unless you did some real special manipulation of your films and only took like 1 out of 100 frames and put them together, right? You would see these creatures there, but they are just standing, if they're around, at this very edge, temporally speaking, right? This is my idea about it, buddy. That's I have to say, your videos inspired that thought. Looking back, both your videos, one and two.
That's a mind-blowing idea, and it goes with a few sightings that I was really fascinated with. These are these spear things that are being caught in high-speed pictures, you know, but they don't see them with the naked eye. And there's a video that goes with this one too, and here's a different one, the same type of craft, the same exact thing. It looks very solid, very structured, and there's this incredible video on the beach, and one of these goes flying super fast between two people. And like they didn't see it, no one around recognizes it. And
yeah.
Right to your point. And I have, oh, here's a picture of it right here. They caught one of the frames of it. It's flying above the water parallel like that down the whole beach. And you see it in the video, but you don't see it with the naked eye. No one reacts to it. It's like, woof, it's crazy. So
where was that video from?
It's from YouTube. It's on YouTube. It was a MUFON case. This was an official MUFON case.
But I mean, where is the beach we're looking at?
Oh, I can't remember where the beach was. But
well, that's the kind of idea. What I'm talking about here is a lot of these sightings, and again, we have to thank Bud Hopkins and Carol Ramey for this. Bud was just such a bulldog of an investigator. I still remember him standing up there. It was all these cases where people photographed things that you couldn't see it, but it showed up in the photograph, or vice versa. They thought their family was standing there, but then the picture turned out to be blank. Right? And it was, he had a book about it, right? It's, what was that called? It was Sight Unseen. Sight Unseen. So I believe any sort of sufficiently advanced technology here would be able to play around with our time frames so that you might be having encounters with ETs every day.
And you have no freaking idea.
You don't remember it because it's below the limit. We know the limit is a scientifically established concept because below a certain threshold, you're not conscious of things. And let me just give you a really concrete example of that everyone would understand. You're actually aware of your entire body right now, but until I said the word, how does your right knee feel? You weren't paying attention to it, right? But you can focus your attention back on your elbow, right? Unless it's hurting or something, actually things that are working really well are not in your consciousness, like you're not aware of your clothes, they fit well. This is something that Alan Watts used to point out, is that when things are flowing, you're not even aware of them. Well, let's fast forward to ET here a little bit. So they could be very conscious of how our awareness works and stay below that limit. So they never quite put action and not show up in all the frames either, temporarily speaking, if they know how to do this. And therefore, they could be around everybody and everyone sort of knows that it's there, but you wouldn't consciously know it's there. It's just like the feeling at the back of your neck.
Wow.
You know what I'm
Doc,
saying?
you're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind too, because the intimacy of the relationship then between us and the extraterrestrials is so much deeper than we ever could have imagined. And it makes me think of a zookeeper in a zoo, and or how they oftentimes in the wild even try to appear as humans will try to appear either like nature or even like a fellow species even. Or as background, a tree, all these different things the naturalists try and just disguise themselves as to have a better understanding of the subject. And we don't know what time frames, scales, and everything that they're working with, especially just being 1,000 years ahead of us. And in the time scales of the universe, 100,000 is probably more likely. And we can't even perceive that, especially because technology grows exponentially. So we have no concept of how deeply they're interacting with us. We really don't. But
I would have to agree with that. I would have to agree. agree with that. We don't know.
We could set up some experiments that might catch a straggler if they were really stupid, but
Which
wow.
they don't tend to be.
No, I don't think so.
You see it with the type of thing of these photos where people take, like the Vancouver Island photo, a famous picture where Vancouver Island, a woman takes a picture of the mountains in the background, and she thinks she's taking a picture of the mountain, and there's famous. It was part of Stephen Greer's photo exhibit. Remember that one?
I think I do. In fact, I think I
Richard Haynes examined it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very luminous, and there's an angle that the sun's reflecting off the metal, and there's no way you could say that's not there. It's perfect. And this is before Photoshop, so don't you mention it. And Haynes was able to compute, the angle of the sun and everything. It's just such a good photo, but the thing is, she didn't see it when she took the picture. How do you not see that? Because it's not the frame rate that your eye needs to see something.
It makes perfect sense.
All those studies of inattentional blindness, right? And I think I mentioned this in the previous video, where some of you folks may have seen this, where there's two teams playing basketball, a team wearing black t-shirts and a team wearing white t-shirts, and you're supposed to. They ask how many times does the team with the white t-shirts pass the ball. So you're sitting there counting how many times the ball, looking at the white t-shirts, and a guy in a gorilla suit walks across the screen.
And no one notices.
Beats his chest, walks away. I did notice it because at one of the conferences I went to, I believe it was Marilyn, who's a researcher in sci-fi from the Institute of Robotic Sciences. She did this as an example, and she said, "What did everyone see?" I saw people passing the ball. But when they play it again, not even slow, just again, there you see the guy in the gorilla suit. It's like, so we don't even see our own reality. So why should we be surprised that we're not seeing a species with another technological? You know what I'm saying? So it's fractal time, space, and fractal time, which equals you're not going to perceive it unless they want you to see them. I mean, it's not a real big stretch. If we can even talk about this here, I'm sure someone would be able to do this. It just has to do with modulating the materials that they're consist of. And I think that's what Hal was sort of talking about with space-time metric engineering, right? And the tic-tacs, the bismuth, magnesium, the terahertz.
Yep.
That it's a blue shift, and that's a slight version of this, but Hal didn't talk about the other materials. I think you told us last time. Was it publicly? Did you tell us how many materials they were studying? I should say.
I think it was, I can't remember what the number was. I know it was at least 8. But
right. Okay, so
it wasn't a secret.
Okay, they showed it. So, we're only going to be able to talk about this stuff sounds like us right now, but I'm just saying, use your imagination to go further out. There's probably a lot of species that are in the room with you right now, if they wanted to be so. I'm not saying don't get all weird about this, but they could interact at such a fraction of an amount of plankton that it's enough to get information, but not enough for us to perceive it. And then, but let's say they could adjust that Planck time after they got to where they wanted to go. They could then they're in our physical reality again. Boom, they're in the middle of your crypto secure room. Going through your file cabinets or whatever. I mean, do you remember that case of Woomera, Australia, where they have those guys walking around the missile launch pad?
No, I'm not remembering.
It had to do with the Solway first photo of that guy that took a picture of his daughter.
Oh, yes. And a few days earlier, there's some strange they're wearing suits, right? Wow.
Right.
Looked like,
and they're at the launch pad, and the missiles were made just a few miles from where that photo was taken. I think he might have worked. I think he worked for that missile.
I know who it was. It was Captain Kirk, Spock, and Scotty from that episode where they went back in time to a rocket launch. You remember that? There was a Star Trek episode where they actually went back in time and they were spotted around a missile launch site. And they're like, stop the launch, there's people out there. But that's an amazing story.
Oh, that's Well, let's see, because Star Trek's always ahead of us, and the science fiction of today is the science fact of tomorrow. And I'm glad you mentioned this. It's the same. Okay, enough about it. You kind of get what I'm going. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah.
I hope you folks, if you think this is interesting about it, put your comments in the box below, because we're just exploring the surface of this. We need you to participate. We really appreciate it, because we're all learning this together. That's the point of the show. Is nobody knows what's going on, and together, all of us are going to piece it together, because we all have a little angle on reality, which adds up to a whole pie.
Yeah, if we crowdsource it, we're going to get more.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But
unless we want to live in our little illusions and prefer not the truth, even if it's uncomfortable.
Boring.
I want to know the truth, the mysteries. Let's go, Doc.
I don't want to be in a comfortable reality. Look, guys, we're in this universe. We don't know where we are. It's an amazing thing, and every moment is unique and special. Why ruin it with reality? I mean, why ruin it with, you know what I mean?
Why ruin it with knowing everything?
Normalcy and feeling that you're right. I mean, this is the problem I always have with these UFO conferences, is people are so confident that they're right. I would prefer anyone to get up and say, here's what we know, and here's what we don't know. 99% we don't know, we know the 1%. Any conference, not just UFO focused science, too. The pharmaceutical industry, everyone wants to be so confident that you buy their products. But the fact is, when I market my product, which is remote group classes, the whole point is you don't know what's really going on. We just have this protocol. It works. We don't really know how you're connecting with that distant target.
And that's being earnest. That's being honest. And it's very difficult to get a lot of honesty out of different people who have motivations not to be honest. You know, with all of this stuff, I'm blown away by it. You know, when I have a successful RV, I am completely blown away by it. I think I have mechanisms in my mind of why and how it works, but every day I learn something different, and I grow and I evolve because I have an open mind. I don't know how all this phenomena works. I have a theory and a suppositions, but I'm willing to let it all crumble and adopt a new theory that's more logical. And I think it's important to be flexible and not stay within this illusion, even though the illusion may feel comfortable, because there's so much just beyond that illusion, you know?
Yeah, all illusions crumble eventually. I mean, I think Einstein was the one who said that nature is cruel to scientific theories if they all turn out to be wrong in the long run. Wow. He was even convinced his general relativity would be overturned by something else. But that's realistic, you see, because as our knowledge expands, we realize there's something else. It's usually more simple than you thought, but initially it can be more complex. When we figure out this alien thing in about 1,000 years, we're going to see that it was really pretty simple, like based on blank time and blank scale or something like that. But right now, that seems like a lot to us. But the thing is, you know, it's a measure of maturity. But to just let go of ideas, and just let go of ideas that don't work, or just it's all tentative. And in the long run, you're going to be screwed by reality because it's just so vast.
You know, and there's a difference between evidence and anecdote. There's a big problem in the UFO community now between evidence and anecdote. And a lot of people take anecdote as evidence. And there's a lot of people who are UFO entertainers as opposed to UFO researchers. But they present themselves as UFO researchers, but they're really UFO entertainers creating the stories for everybody, the solutions, you know, the illusions that people can live in. You know, I want to take a little quick, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, the UFO entertainers and all this, we know there's a lot of disinformation that came from different government intel agencies. News researchers about what was going on. Richard Doty admitted it for Stephen Greer on Unacknowledged. And I haven't seen it, but there's an extended excerpt from Doty. I mean, it's pretty powerful evidence that your tax dollars are going for people to organize hoaxes and fool us. And I'm wondering whether so much of this has been mixed in to keep us away from this conversation. What's the scientific reality of what's going on? Because it's not as scary when we're making fun of it. Anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
No, but you know, I've been experiencing a lot of that lately in my life as I've been uncovering different things, receiving animosity. I discovered a program like the Firmage thing was all fake, and you know, I got a lot of animosity. But anyway, to circle back to I was thinking about that these nano UFOs and the ability to move in timescales that we don't understand. Both of those things, the nanoscale and the ability to move in timescales and frequencies that we don't understand, can explain a lot of the unexplainable situations. Oftentimes in UFO history, there's been cases where the UFO will either shut down an aircraft, a nuclear missile, and somehow even affect these control rooms on the bottom, these nuclear control rooms that are electromagnetically shielded. And they're shielded, of course, against a nuclear explosion. They're shielded against all, basically electromagnetic frequencies reasonable, you would think. And somehow these craft are shutting down all of these things, all of these different devices. And maybe it doesn't have to be a frequency. Maybe it could be something physical. Somehow they're able to get down there at a time scale we don't understand in a nano craft, and they can go down there into that control room, and they can physically go up here, go down, go inside, and shut it off. Or they can take their craft in there and do it, or send micro, nano bots inside the craft itself and shut down. Maybe that's how they have that thing, instantaneous sensor disassembly. Remember that from the DoD report, or slide number 9 of the Chris Mellon leak? Maybe that's how they're disassembling sensors.
Instantaneous disassembly of sensors, right? Is that the word?
Yep, and passing through solid objects.
Penetration of solid surfaces.
Yep.
Yeah, it's but you can guarantee that this conversation we haven't heard about. This would be ultra classified at the highest level if this technology existed that could take all of these sort of military facilities offline in a way that's totally undetectable. I can't think of anything that would be at that level. Can you,
right.
I mean, think any country. I mean, nobody wants that. I always wondered how they did that. I mean, they did it at Maelstrom, they did it at Minot, they did it at Rapid City, South Dakota, and they're situated at Wordsmith and Loring, Maine, right?
They've done it after craft. They've done it to these,
Right. We don't know how many aircraft they've done it to because we don't get the numbers. And we know that sometimes they've initiated the launch sequence.
Yep, the opposite.
More serious in initiating the launch sequence beyond the control of the launch control officers, who are, they're not just sitting there and push the button, they're waiting for the command should it ever happen. It's, something that's very difficult to think about, but that's what they're waiting. They're not just sitting there trying to go off, for Pete's sake. And, you had the case in the Ukraine in '82 and other, it was happened in, I believe, Midwest, somewhere in Nebraska. The launch sequence went off, they had to override it. So those systems are so highly controlled and checks and double checks, triple checks. How do you get beyond that to get it just to do that? I don't know. I really honestly don't know.
A nano UFO, easy. Nano UFOs. Here's a thought. Do you remember the Chile UFO, and that the Chile Navy shot this video of this craft up in the clouds, and it was up in the clouds, and then it released this very strange cloud. Do you remember that very strange outgassing? And the weird thing was the cloud had a very linear front. I don't know if you see the front of the cloud, but essentially the cloud was like squared off at the front there. And so maybe that was a fleet of nanobots, a cloud of them. You never know.
That particular photo, I'm not totally certain about. I did see that, and I looked into that pretty thoroughly, I'm afraid. Because infrared looks dark when it's hot, right? You're not looking at a solid object there, you're looking at heat.
Yeah.
So there is some debate about that. Even Leslie Kane, I think, said jury's out on that one.
Well, the Chilean Navy investigated it for 2 years, and I've looked at it pretty good, and it seems to be in the clouds, not on the ground, and it does have a strange, unusual movement, and it does do a very unusual outgassing, and I haven't come up with a really good explanation for that yet that I felt was, I'd love to hear good ones. If anyone, the viewers have ideas, or if it's been debunked and I'm just stupid, please let me know. I love to know when something's been debunked. I hate holding on to something that
Some of the sites I looked at did show aircraft patterns that day and so forth. It's certainly not a topic I'm an expert on, but it did seem that there was a particular plane where that would have been. And the argument against the Chilean Navy for this case is that it was a very new infrared system, and those pilots were just using it new, and they weren't used to using it to see other things. So, but here's the thing, buddy, it doesn't really matter to me. People often are always concerned, because I've been involved with crowd surfing and made real money. I get it. Sort of doesn't matter, because if you use your imagination like you're doing right now to imagine what nanobot UFOs would look like, then we need to consider how these things would be released. Would you release them in plume, like that photo would be presentational of, if that were the case? Or would it be like, I think Fravor, if not, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I believe the post said 20 per craft. Yeah, like that other photo. So how? Yeah. So it's right. So that's really the question. Is we've all been looking for large objects out there, right? But let's say they're small and fast, and they can maneuver in a way that just is beyond the edge of your perception because of the limits of, human consciousness. I mean, we don't see reality anyway.
There could be one per person on
Earth.
I
mean, it's that book, Tornora Transfers.
Yes, you're right.
Why not? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to alarm people unnecessarily. It's.
But it's
not like no drama Obama, but I don't believe in scaring people unnecessarily. But we don't know.
Here's something to.
It's a really good question. You've got me thinking. You've definitely got me thinking about it.
Here's a way to counteract the thought. And the thought is, the more advanced you get as a civilization, the greater your ability to get sensory equipment from a further and further distance. So you'd have a very minimal reason to get close enough to get a sample. Most of the things you could get close enough to get a sample, you could likely get from a distance. We can find out what stars are made out of billions of light years away just by their light coming in optical spectrometry. So a very advanced civilization could see us and detect us, probably detect our thoughts, our brain waves at such a low frequency from a distance, because our technology is so great. That metamaterial magnifying glass I was talking about before, maybe they're using something a billion times better than that. And they only come close. They only come close when they have to find out detail that they cannot absolutely get from a distance. So there would be fewer than maybe my original theory of, 126.
It's a very good question, buddy. I mean, honestly, because you get so many of these reports from the 50s, 60s of these craft landing in a field, and these guys get out and start digging in the soil, right?
Yes.
And I believe those witnesses are telling us the truth about what they saw. I'm familiar with some of them. Why would you have little guys come over here and dig in the soil when we already have the technology like nanobots to remotely do it, as you're saying, mass spectroscopy to detect. In fact, we're told you can detect life on another planet just by looking at light emissions, because obviously carbon dioxide has a different frequency than oxygen through your telescope, the spectrum. And so you can actually detect our type of life at a distance. At least that's one idea. So this is all good. So what's going on? I mean, it's baffling. I mean, this is a really baffling thing. I just try not to think about it too much.
Here's what kind of, to me, counteracts that other argument about studying from a distance. And that is that in the past, 15 years, the amount of these fleets being seen appears to be going up. I haven't done the metrics. I don't know the statistics, but the numbers of these fleets in the past 15 years seem to be very, very high right now. And with the military counters, it's almost every one. They can trace one back to a fleet somewhere that came in somewhere. It's they seem to be tumbling in from space as fleets, or going to places in and out of the water as fleets. There's less and less of these solitary sightings, I think, and that could be indicative of our first theory of them being a lot around us more than we think. Maybe they're in a more of a race. They can do mathematics about what's going on with the planet quicker than we can. They're like, you know what, we got to get all the samples really quick. We have to get all the biological samples, guys. Come on, chop, chop, chop. The humans could kill each other anytime now. Chop, chop, chop. We don't want to lose any more species, any more DNA. Come on, guys. More ships. Chop, chop. I don't know.
Yeah, it could really dislocate your sense of reality if we keep pushing this, because it sort of suggests that they can manipulate our sense of time, right?
Everything.
Maybe they are manipulating time, because then it goes back to Bud Hopkins and Sight Unseen. These people felt they were going to meet with their family, but there's no one in the pictures. It's blank. So where were they? He told us the story of all these cars crossing one of the Delaware Bridge or somewhere, and they all ended up on the other side of the bridge without paying the toll, facing the other way.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of cars all of a sudden instantaneously on the other side of the bridge without having to pay the toll, facing the wrong direction, where there was a white dust on top of the surface, very thin dust. So anyway, these are just examples of how why people don't remember these. I was talking to somebody. I was doing this RV seminar, a multiverse seminar in Denver on Sunday, and we're doing another full RV class, just a one-day class on Sunday. So we were kind of doing 2 Sundays in a row. Anyway, there's a guy there that I talked to before who had this experience going back to Oregon. On his way, he lived in a city in Oregon or town. Okay, he's gone back middle of the night, and there's a bright flash into the woods on his right. He said the flash was the type that would be like an LED turning on, but like the biggest LED you ever encountered in the sky. Not like slowly coming on, like stadium lights, and boom, it's just on.
Wow. And
everything got illuminated by it. He said, everything would turn white for a few seconds, and then it went off. He decided to go back to investigate because he thought his friends would say, "Why didn't you hang out? Look what was there." So he goes back. It's 1:30 a.m. He decides to leave, and when he gets home, what should have been a 2-hour trip, 7 hours later,
wow.
Sun has already risen. Cars are out, 7:30 in the morning, but it only should have been an hour from that location. He remembers leaving, but he didn't. He remembers leaving at 1:30, but the next time he looks at the clock, it's 7:30, and the sun's out, and he drives into his driveway. So he's missing a lot of time. So I'm sure all of you folks out there have a lot of missing time stories you've heard or read about, and I have a bunch of Black Swan ghosts. Joy French, who lost 8 hours on Mount Rainier. I mean, she ends up back in her bed in the morning, but doesn't know how she got there. And her friend gets back in his bed in another part of town, and he doesn't know how he got there, because the last thing they remember is their car stalled driving up the side of the road in the middle of the night. This bright light comes on, and all of a sudden 8 hours gone. And well, you guys will see what I'm saying.
And that
so what temporal manipulation is going on? I don't know.
And that goes right to the point of the DoD, those specification things, anomalies in the space-time construct. And it's
so they're recognizing.
Oh yeah, they're recognizing it. And also two little thoughts is, in the To the Stars contract list, that was of course a point of interest, several different angles of attack on that. And I just saw something really interesting. I saw a trailer for Jeremy Corbell's new Bob Lazar film. And they show an old clip of Bob Lazar. I'm not sure, don't get me on the date, but I think it's the 80s or something. And Bob Lazar is talking about the gravity amplifier. And he says, the gravity amplifier is set up in a way where the construction of the material creates a waveguide when vibrated at the right terahertz or something like that. And it cuts. And I go, holy shit, that's the To the Stars piece. That's exactly what the To the Stars piece does. It's a waveguide for terahertz. And that's such an unusual thing. And Bob Lazar said it all the way back then. And
wow, he mentioned terahertz way back then.
Yeah, I don't know if he said terahertz, but I forget exactly what he said. But you'll see the clip and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's an amazing parallel to the stars piece of metamaterial. So
Yeah.
we're in a new phrase. I think your point about us rethinking how we think is a really important thought. You know,
it's weird, buddy. We've got evidence here. We've got decades of evidence. Don't have a paradigm that can easily explain it. We don't have institutions that want to even talk about it. I mean, you and I are talking about it more here right now on each of these episodes than maybe anyone else has ever talked about it that I know in a group. And where's a group of two and our YouTube friends, right? I mean, this doesn't get discussed. Where do you go to discuss this? UFO conferences don't talk about this either because so many of the people there want to be thrilled, chilled. And I'm not saying you can go and do whatever you want. I've been to tons of conferences and I've learned a lot, but you don't get serious scientific discussion. Now we have the TTSA group, but that's sort of secret because they're doing it and showing us a little bit. What I want is a public discussion of this, like we're doing here, to talk about the terahertz reactions to the metamaterials, the missing time, what did Bob those are. We need a big investigation of this to find out the facts and the evidence. We haven't even started the discussion.
We should be excited to find out reality's edge. Reality's edge.
Yes.
That's what our show is about. And
that would be a great name for our show.
It would be. It would be. Humanity should be excited to explore reality's edge.
Hundreds of years ago, you had a whole bunch of scientists around the time of Copernicus and later Galileo who questioned everything. And they were questioning Aristotle. They were questioning Greek philosophy, metaphysics. They didn't think it made sense. They didn't think it added up to reality. And they finally had evidence. Microscopes, telescopes, barometers. None of this matched what Aristotle said. Zero. It took society quite a while to catch up to this and not try to imprison these people or burn them at the stake. Copernicus's own book on the revolution of the orbs was only published on, I believe, as the day he died or something. He was so afraid of having it published because these guys you could be held under house arrest or tortured or killed by the Inquisition. And so we had this.
Vatican just forgive him, like in the past 10 years or something like that?
They did. Did they forgive Bruno too? Did they forgive Bruno Giardiworth?
I think so. Yeah.
They have made changes. I'm not against them. They've been very upfront about the UFO. Very upfront about it. But this is what we're talking about. So we're going through another period of that right now. As exciting as the scientific revolution was for Galileo. Can you imagine when Galileo saw the moons of Jupiter? They didn't know what they were looking at. And they initially thought it was another solar system. And that those were planets. And the news made its way across Europe, and someone came up to Kepler, Johannes Kepler, who was an astronomer. He had made a bet that there were no other solar systems besides the Earth. And so when someone came up and said, hey, Galileo discovered another solar system, he admitted he was wrong and had a good chuckle with it and laughed about it over, at the local pub and so forth, that he had been wrong. But it wasn't actually a solar system, it was another planet. But you could see the mindset back then. They were looking at evidence. What does it mean about the whole thing? What's the central, Ptolemaic, Tychonian versions? There are versions of how all the motions of the planet.
So amazing.
But they have to start it out with math and evidence. And that's what we're coming up against right now. I can't think of anything bigger than what these TTSA slides are indicating. Space-time. All this stuff.
Humanity had such a hard time.
Spontaneous disassembly of sensors.
Yes. Humanity had such a difficult time in Galileo's time coming to terms with the fact that the universe didn't circle around us. And now we're at another period of time where humanity is having a great deal of difficulty believing that the universe doesn't circle around us in terms of we are the only life forms. So
it's exactly right.
And it's a religious thing holding us down still. So although there's been hundreds of years have passed, we're still held back by people saying, no, 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 I understand. No, no, I understand. You know, my religion is the right one, or mine says this couldn't be possible. And like we said at the beginning of the conversation, you have to be brave enough to shatter your own self-created comfortable illusions, to find new ground, new truths, bigger and better opportunities, better life for everyone. When you break these illusions and move forward based on facts, logic, repeatability, all these different things, pragmatism, and not anecdote. So I think
totally
Galileo had it rough.
agree with that. Back then, those guys got to publish books, and they had to sort of be secretive because they didn't want to be imprisoned. But they persisted, and we wouldn't be the people we are now if they hadn't won. Because we're all, whatever you believe, you're an evidence-based person, right? You're not just saying, believe me because I said it was true. We all say, well, why do I know? And we have our own studies to back up everything that we believe. We don't all agree, but we have evidences to back up what our beliefs are. Yeah. So we're all, modern people are like evidence-based. Believe it because someone told us, because our parents told us. That's the difference between us and previous generations. We just don't believe it. But for hundreds of years, for over 1,000 years, it was just, well, whatever Aristotle said, that has to be the way. Do you know they didn't believe anything changed beyond the moon?
Oh, like it was fixed. That's right. It was fixed, right?
Even Galileo, I believe, still thought that the planets were moving at equivalent speeds, even if they did.
I got a secret to tell you. My ex-girlfriend believed the same thing. She didn't understand the universe, how it was structured. And it's a complex thing. You think the universe is really complex, but you open a simple book about it and you find out about the ecliptic and how, you know, the stars move across the ecliptic and constellations. And it's a lot easier to understand than you think. It's not as daunting. Astronomy is really exciting and simple. I mean, initially.
Yeah, it follows rules of gravity and motion, Lagrangian minimums, and all this cool stuff. And actually, the models they had back then were complicated. But the point is, as you're saying, we're coming across new evidence, and we're feeling a little secretive about it because we don't want to be penalized by our company, our jobs, our government for talking about this. But we have to talk about this. This is what Hal Puthoff told us to do at SSE Urban in June. Or it's going to be a Sputnik moment where other countries are going to talk about it and we'll fall behind.
Right on.
So don't be afraid to talk about it. Bring it out, and we have very good people that came before us, our forefathers of Galileo and Copernicus and Bruno and Boyle and Kepler and all the other folks who insisted on let's do experiments in Bruno until we get figured this out. That's all of our technologies, quantum technology is working right now because quantum mechanics used to be considered heretical, subversive. People who were studying quantum mechanics were elected, including Edward Condon of the Condon Report.
Wow.
Do you know he was blacklisted for promoting quantum mechanics?
I didn't know
that.
It
was considered a subversive sort of communist ideology. And I know you know about that comment. You know about the subversive. It was considered a Soviet ideology or something.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, some people think Edward Condon authored the Condon Report. He was trying to make a good name for himself after being blacklisted.
Wow. When you're a truth seeker, you are demonized.
He lost his security clearance because of his promotion of quantum mechanics. He had some good discoveries.
What about that guy who was the numbers guy who cracked the codes? They made the movie about him, and he got
Turing.
Gay. Turing.
Yeah.
Gay. We lose this.
Alan Turing.
Yeah, they drive him crazy because he's gay. Who cares? We should be on a quest for knowledge. The
UK government apologized for that, didn't they, recently, for the way they treated him?
But in some ways,
because a lot of people thought we might have lost. We would have lost without him. We might have lost the Allied side. I'm saying the Allied side would have lost without him.
Breaking the Enigma machine was humongous. We took out all those subs because we knew where they were. It was like bam, 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 and the subs were crushing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, Doc, I think this has been an amazing episode, and it's gotten me actually kind of scared. It makes me want to run around my kitchen with like a fly swatter, and just in case there's something there, or a tennis racket that's a metamaterial invisible faster than me object.
But we have to remind people that this is all speculative in a sense, that we don't know if these nanoprobes are around. We know that little mosquito that you've been showing us is around because where did you get that picture from, by the way? Is that
I got it from I swallowed it on my girlfriend's back, and I pulled it off, and I just took a close-up picture of it on my finger. And I was like, that ain't a normal mosquito. That's a strange skeeter. If you spray it with bug spray, it's like,
okay, so I haven't seen, I have to be honest, I haven't physically seen evidence of these little drones around. I don't know where they are or if they just follow David Fravor around in his F-18 squad.
I think smaller ones are more reasonable.
No, I do. It makes sense. I don't have direct evidence of that, but that doesn't mean anything because sometimes you don't know what to look for until you have a good theory to kind of guide you in a particular direction, right? So It's a new concept for me. I mean, even though I've talked about fractals,
think about it. They would be the most intimate by design. By design, they would be the most intimate. The closest to the level of the surface, the more of a need for constant visibility. The more numbers and the more.
It's true. And
no, I have another thought just to kind of end up this invisibility thought. It's about the Fermi paradox. The obvious solution to the Fermi paradox is that they're hiding. But because a 10,000-year-old civilization is scared of what a potential 100,000-year-old civilization could do. But if all aliens were peaceful in the universe, wouldn't they allow themselves to be seen? They wouldn't care. There's a weird, this whole invisibility thing is a major issue. It has so many questions that are hard to answer.
It's true, buddy. But you would have to think the Star Trek had the prime directive.
I'm praying for the prime directive.
And if there is such a thing, if there is a prime directive, they would not want to be seen to avoid affecting our evolution in a negative way that maybe they see and we don't. I mean, we just wouldn't want to interfere too much, It's sort of like catch and release. It's the way we treat animals that we need to capture temporarily to put a collar on them. So scientifically, we can find out their migration routes to help them.
Or uncontacted tribes. We leave
uncontacted tribes. So are we a tribe and we don't see ourselves that way? They are very primitive.
Or are we a fish farm? Maybe
one of both.
We could be a zoo. I hope we're a zoo. I hope we're a zoo.
No, again, I'm gonna. We don't know, but I imagine. My feeling is that they don't want to interfere too much beyond just showing up in our dreams at night and saying, "Hi, we're here," and not really. Because see, here's the thing, buddy. We need to. All these questions we're asking on the show, they're very important. We need to work with them on our own, from our own level that we're at, or we won't make progress. For me to, and I'm sure for anyone in you, buddy, it takes a lot of work and energy to stay focused on this year after year after year. But the results are worth it because you discovered really new stuff that no one ever saw before. But that takes a lot of energy and time. If someone came in and just gave you the answer, if someone came in 20 years ago, buddy, and said, "Oh, we use fractal distribution, the UFOs," that would have short-circuited 20 years of working on your own, reading and coming up with your own ideas, developing your imagination or intuition.
Such a good point. And you know what? I've said to a friend today how this subject is a big meal, and you can't eat the big meal in one swallow. You have to eat one bite to get to the next bite, to the next bite, and then you can have a nutritious, good, healthy meal. But if you try and eat all at once, society can choke and people can choke, So just like you say, maybe it's beyond our comprehension. Maybe they're keeping it within our realms of understandability. Maybe when they're seen, it's strictly because they choose to be seen, because they're kind of getting the zoo animal accustomed to the, who knows? But you know what? The exploration is what is important. The exploration, an earnest, open, and fun exploration, I think, is a great idea.
Fun? You think we're entitled to some fun with this serious topic? You're supposed to be.
We should. It's too serious.
It's too serious. Very serious. It's serious. SIRIUS.
Yes. Well, some people take this field of research very, very, very serious. And I think maybe, you know, if we all lighten up a little bit,
maybe it's
nicer to each other, we'll learn more.
Right, right. The secret to enlightenment. Lighten
Yes.
up.
Yeah, when studying reality's edge. This is fun. I love these topics. I love
this is great stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I love the edge of our understanding. It's an exciting place. And that's the place that inspires kids. You've spoken about that on several episodes. That's what we need to do. We need to have this discussion and excite kids. I'm so excited a vein is bulging in my head like that old Star Trek creature.
Yeah. The Ferengi is coming out in you. You see the Ferengi. Maybe you are getting visited once out of every 10 frames per second by your Ferengi friends. We don't know. You just have to go with it. Maybe the truth is so big here. Maybe we can only handle little bites at a time, as you're saying. And I'm hoping this show is part of that. All of you, we love your comments, and it's just like we're all learning together about what it is. Bring together the best knowledge. The facts and the knowledge are neutral in themselves. We just need to piece it together, and we'll sort it out. It's big. There's no shortage of things to talk about over the next coming decades. So,
and I look forward to our next discussion in every one of our
okay.
Because
me too, buddy. And so, very exciting. And I don't hear this discussion anywhere else. So it's. You know, I need it. I gotta feel it flowing through my veins. The flow of truth.
Yes, a mystery. Exploring a mystery. It's awesome. It's awesome. And exploring it with you, Doc, is really awesome. And I appreciate.
Buddy.
I appreciate the viewers.
Me too. I feel the same way. We will. And we will see you in our next.
Can we do a fist bump? Bam! The first Zoom fist bump.
Virtual fist bump. We will see you in the next episode.
Kick your gang.
Yeah.